Welcome to the 17 Law Studio. Today we're going to talk about intimacy. Everybody seems to want to talk about that, and so today I want to answer your questions about intimacy. Now, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on out there, but today I I want to do what I typically do and what I've been doing lately on all these longer videos. And that is, I want to answer your question. So if it's interesting to you, it's interesting to me. And again, it's my opinion. If you differ, I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me at all. Part of my, a good part of my opinions is from experience and dealing with families over the years. So that's where I'm coming from. So if you disagree, that's okay. Or you may come from a background where this makes no sense to you. I'm okay with that. Doesn't bother me at all. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to read the first question, and I grouped these together because this group is around how many times or who's doing it the most or who's getting all the intimacy. And I say the word intimacy, I really mean sex. Okay. Now intimacy doesn't really mean that by the letter of the law. That's cuddling, holding hand, romance, and all that sort of thing. But for the sake of this, and I don't want to get banned on any platform, so I'm going to use the word intimacy. So with that in mind, this question and 100 others are around, hey, everybody's doing it more than I am. Or what's the average? What's everybody doing? Well, I've seen studies where, depending on age groups, seems like super young, low 20s. It's happening a little more often, then it's a little less often, and then older you get, a little less often. But that's not necessarily the case because I know some people in their 20s, it doesn't happen. I know some people on the upper echelon of 50s, 60s, happening all the time. So, and I know there's everything in between. So, let me tell you the perfect number. Everybody wants to know what's the perfect number of times a day, a week, a month that you should be having intimacy with your spouse. It's whatever you want. It's literally whatever it is that you guys desire. Now here's the problem with that. Here's the real problem. Couples aren't typically honest with each other. I see this a lot. A guy tries to initiate intimacy with his wife. She turns him down. I got a headache or whatever. We're going to my nephew's bar mitzvah, or I'm stressed out about whatever. And then after a while, he just stops, and then it doesn't happen. So there's one thing. So the next question is, hey, it has to do with what if you don't have intimacy in your marriage? But this is how many times is enough. So that typically happens. So, or maybe it might be the wife who's initiating it with the husband, and he's turning her down for whatever reason. I don't see that a lot, but I do see it. So, what is the perfect number? How do you get to that perfect number of whatever it is you want? Well, you gotta be truly honest with each other. I mean, you truly have to be honest with each other. I've had it where a husband would say, "Oh, just whatever you want, honey, just whatever you want," but that wasn't true. No, he was wanting to a lot more than she was willing to, but she took his word for it, and then he began building up resentment toward her because she didn't want intimacy. But he's the one who told her he wasn't up. He was fine with whatever. Now, in those cases, I see more often than not that the guys, the desire for intimacy doesn't just evaporate. I've seen so many videos. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And it's usually really young people. And they say, oh, intimacy in a marriage is not a need. Breathing and water and eating, those are needs. Intimacy is just a desire. I don't believe that for a moment. I think we are made to be intimate with our spouses. I really believe that. And as much as you possibly can, that's my belief. In fact, so many times I see couples. I mean, it's rare, even though I met another counselor one time who said this couple couldn't get along, and they said, but the sex is great. I'm thinking, well, that's unusual. But for what I see and what I've seen is if couples are intimate an awful lot, they're not having as serious problems as other people. But what I was getting at, so in this example, the husband who's not being honest with his wife, and then he turns to another place for that. So here's a situation that here's what you got to realize. I believe this with all my heart, and that is the best place for intimacy is with your spouse. That is the best place for that. And if it's not going to happen there, unlike some of the people who are out there preaching, oh, it's not a need, it is a need. And I guarantee you, I don't know this for a fact, I'm guessing, that the people who are preaching this isn't a need has something going on in their life where they don't like it. That's why they're saying it's not a need. If they liked it as much as the rest of us, they wouldn't be shouting from the mountaintop saying, "Hey, you don't need intimacy." I really don't believe that at all in a couple. Now you may so this guy that and I say this guy, I don't mean a guy, I mean the typical guy who's asking his wife, and he's telling her, "No, honey, I'm good with whatever." He's not being honest. He's going to find an outlet for that in some way that's not as healthy as with his spouse. Now, there may be some things he's doing that he may or may not have an affair, but he might. Can you imagine? If you really want intimacy, you're turning your spouse down, and then somebody else at work, which is typically where those things happen, is willing to? I don't know. I don't want to take that chance. I mean, not that that's the thing. Or is he going to turn to porn? Is he going to turn to whatever the case may be? It's probably not. Whatever it is, it's not as healthy as intimacy with his wife. And that could work the other way around with the wife as well. There's a lot of women out there who would want intimacy a lot more than their husbands, and guys, you're just starving them of that. I'm going to talk about all that here in a little while, but how much is enough? How much is the perfect number? Honestly, I know folks 10 to 12 times a week, and they're doing great, and they're not as young as you think they are. And I know some people who are maybe once or twice a week. I know some that once or twice a month. But they're okay with that. They are okay with whatever they decide as a couple. And then not every couple is that important, but it is important. But a lot of couples, it's important. Now, over time, maybe you decide, hey, we gained way too much weight. We're not as healthy. We're not as this. We don't want to. We don't have the desire anymore. Hey, I get that. I don't get it because you're older. I get it because maybe you made some poor eating decisions, or maybe you have a legitimate health issue. I get that. But if you're honest with each other and you would like more, then you should communicate that with your spouse and have a time together. You can say, hey, I would really like more. And maybe due to physical reasons, you have to get a little creative. Hey, I get that. So how much is enough? It's whatever you guys want, assuming you're honest. And that's the key. You got to be honest. And if you're thinking that somebody else is a lot more than you, that's probably not true. But you probably only hear about the times they are, and you assume that's happening every day. But that's truly not, may not be. I hope it is. But if they want to do it every day or twice a day, that's great. But that doesn't mean you have to. That's no burden on you to feel like, oh, I'm not living up to as a good wife or a good husband. That's not fair. It's whatever you guys want. Don't compare yourself to someone else. In my next video, I'm going to talk about comparison, by the way, how terrible that is in a marriage. But this question has to do with how much is enough. It's whatever you honestly decide as a couple, if you're honest. The next question has to do with, it appears that I've got a bunch of questions, and it's usually my husband or my wife has lost desire, has lost that intimate desire, but the other spouse still has it. That's not a healthy way to move forward, because again, the desire doesn't go away, the want to doesn't go away, and the best place for that is with your spouse. So where's that outlet? Well, it's not, whatever that outlet is not as healthy as it is with your spouse. So why do couples lose desire? I see it for a number of reasons. The biggest reason is they haven't worked on their relationship. To have a really healthy, intimate life, it usually means you have to have a really good marriage and you're connecting and you have a love and respect for each other. And when I see that a lot of times that's lost, it's because that's not happening. I've got a ton of videos on working on your marriage and your relationship. But if you've got a really good relationship, it positively affects your intimate life. So what does that? See, some people say, "Well, my wife's being a witch, or my husband being a jerk, and if he'll just have or she'll just have sex with me, then I'll work on the other. But as long as she's being or he's being whatever, then I'm not going to worry about it." It doesn't work that way. That's counterintuitive. I know. Work on the relationship, and the intimate part will more likely come than if you try it the other way around. So I see that in times where over time they take each other for granted. You know how when they started when you and your spouse started dating, and then nothing mattered. You didn't care if she shaved her legs. You didn't care if he took a shower. You didn't care about anything. Y'all just wanted to be together. You couldn't wait to see each other. You just wanted to please each other. You didn't care if what happened at the restaurant, if they burned the food or whatever. You didn't care if you got stuck in traffic. Heck, if you got stuck in traffic, that's just more time together before dinner, right? So that's the kind of relationship that kind of gets lost after you get married. Does it? It shouldn't. And so those of you who are dating more and more and more and more, that spills over to your life of intimacy. And I can share with you from personal experience, and not just other people I know, but when I started dating and I met my who's now my wife, I didn't know anything about being a husband. I didn't know anything about being a father. I didn't know that much about relationships. I didn't see any of that growing up. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I could have used the excuse, well, my family, my parents were too busy working, or whatever the case may be, or whatever. I could have used all that excuse, but it never crossed my mind to use as an excuse. So I started reading every book I could find, watching every video I could find. Back then maybe it was on a DVD or something, and then now it's streaming. And really, if you come to my city and you see me on an elliptical, whether it's at home or at the Y, there's a good chance you'll witness me watching a video on becoming a better person, a better human, a better husband, or something on relationship. And that spills over to my relationship with my wife. And I'm always trying to learn more about her. In fact, if you want, email me, russ@17laws.com. I've got 400 and something questions that I've developed over the years. I just started writing them down and more. And so my wife and I this a number of years ago, I think there's games out there now. I feel like they probably stole my idea. But this was before I knew there were games out there. But on date night, we would just say, okay, you ask a question, I'll ask a question. You ask a question. And we did that for years. And then we'd say, okay, every other question has to be on sex, has to be on intimacy. And it's what you like, you don't like, what you prefer, something like that. And so over the years, we've communicated and we've built our relationship. And just about every date night we have to this day, we still learn something about each other. In fact, we can go back to those same questions and ask them again. And it's oh, wow, I haven't thought about that in a while. Well, now I would answer it this way. And occasionally, if we're on a trip or something with another couple, they'll say, hey, can we ask some of those questions? And then we'll ask, and obviously you can't ask all of them in front of a couple, but we ask a lot of them in front of other couples. But we've worked on that relationship, and I promise you that spills over into your life of intimacy. If your husband, your wife absolutely adores you, and you feel like you're so connected, the odds of that spilling over into your intimate life, oh my gosh, is huge, huge. So that's one of the reasons I see that it's not happening as much as everybody wants it to happen. So another thing I see as you get older, when I mean older, I don't mean 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean upper 20s, 30s, whatever. Another reason I see is early on, when the kids are little. I know people are starting to have kids later, But when the kids are little, they say yes to everything else but themselves. Yes to every little sporting event, every little ballet band, you name it, say yes to everything but the spouse is saying yes to everybody but each other. Even the church, love the church, glad you're going to church, appreciate the church, but you still have you can't volunteer for every single thing in life at church and home and work and community and everything else if you're saying no to time together with your spouse. That's just not right. You got to say no somewhere and say yes to your spouse. Quit saying no to your spouse. Quit saying no to your marriage. Quit saying no to your relationship with your spouse and start saying yes to that. Start saying no to everything else. So being super busy, that's one of the things I see. So when it comes to super busy, let's just say that, honestly, I got 4 kids. I get it. We're busy. We've been busy. There's busier times than other. People ask, is it weird to schedule sex? No, it's not. In fact, if that's what you do the rest of your life, I mean, that's no, of course not. But occasionally, I mean, right now, it's like the husband's kind of hitting on the wife, and she's like, but the kids are downstairs, or this, or I'm busy, I'm tired, I got this to do, I got this to do. Or the wife saying, hey, honey, how about, he said, well, I got to finish these emails, I got this little project due tomorrow, whatever. And that happens, and then you just stop asking. But it's so refreshing and it's like a burden left off. You say, okay, Thursday night after dinner, we're putting the kids to bed, and it's on. It's on. And it sets everybody's expectations, and then there's not that disappointment throughout the week. There's actually something to look forward to. So, scheduling time or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 a week, whatever it is that you like, whatever y'all can do, want to do. Yeah, I'd do that. What I want to do that for the next 5 years, of course not. What I want to do that for the next year or two, no. But could you do that until your schedule freed up and it got a little better? Yeah, absolutely. That's huge, 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 huge. Don't rule that out. As weird as it sounds. Now, if you go to all your friends and say, "Well, I can't do nothing because I got to have sex Thursday at 7," I mean that's going to sound odd, but you know what I mean. Of course, they may be happy for you. They'll be like, "Oh, is this tonight? Okay, turn your phone off." Another thing that I mean, I think I've said this in another video. Just be honest with each other. I've seen where this really happened. A guy was asking his wife, just initiating intimacy, and he kept getting turned down. And then she was finally honest, and she said, when we get in the room, the kids are awake, and you don't lock the door. That makes me nervous. Man, she was being honest. So guess what? He's like, I'll lock the door. I'll bolt the door. Heck, I'll get a plywood and just completely shut the door off. And then she also said the bed was really squeaky and knew the kids could hear. He got a new mattress. Good communication. Man, problem solved. So, next, so th- I know I'm jumping around a little bit. So here's another thing that I see. Oh my gosh, a ton, and I may end it with this, and that has to do with your health. And I don't mean like health that you can't do anything about. Something happened. I don't mean that at all. I mean self-inflicted. You eat too much, you're not exercising. You're blaming your health habits on how busy you are, and so you're having to run through drive-throughs like somebody's holding a gun to your head and saying, "Oh, you have to go through a drive-through. You have to." It's self-inflicted. I've been there. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now at one point in time because I was so busy. And I didn't blame anybody but me. I mean, drive through for breakfast, drive through for lunch, drive through for supper, working all the time. And then finally I got on the scale and thought, oh my gosh, I feel terrible. Everything in right. So anyway, I fixed that. 50 pounds later and I'm healthier. And that was just a small season in my life. I've generally been a runner most of my life. I've generally ate decent most of my life. I work out most of my life. But there was about a year, maybe 2, that I got off of that, and that's probably been what 6, 7, 5, 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And I realized I can't do this. I can't do this. So I see that in couples, and it spills over into their sex life. So what do you do about that? Well, what I did is, I decided I wanted to be healthier tomorrow than I am today, and then I want to be healthier next month than I am today. So if I'm going to be here in 6 months from now anyway, I might as well get a little healthier. And so I did. And this is what I recommend. Now, over the years, I'm not a thin guy. I'm not really a fat guy. I'm kind of in the middle. Um, but I've always had to watch what I eat. I see all these people eating at McDonald's every day and they're skinny. I don't get that. It's not fair. I just tell you, it's not fair. I can just drive past McDonald's and gain a pound. That's just how my life's been. So I've had to watch what I eat. I've had to exercise every single day. I've ran a marathon, a bunch of half marathons, all that stuff. Try to stay healthy, work out, and I still work out 3 days, usually every other day with the weights. And I got to have a pretty serious routine. I'm probably stronger now than I've ever been in my life. And I'm doing the elliptical, getting my heart rate up several times a week, and I'm just kind of, I'm in that habit. I schedule working out. The day before I say, okay, tomorrow I've got all these things, but this time I have to work out. Maybe I get up crazy early, maybe I get off work early, whatever the case may be, but I'm scheduling working out. And then I pay attention to what I eat most of the time. I'm not eating kale shakes, and I'm not a vegan. I'm not a there's no way you could follow me around and say you're a health food nut. It is absolutely anything but the truth. But I try to eat a little better. If I have a choice of salmon or a cheeseburger, most of the time I try to choose salmon. I don't always. If I have a choice between vegetables and French fries, most of the time I try to do the vegetables. But yeah, do I order the French fries? Yeah, and used to I would order way too much. I try to order a little less. I try not to eat everything. Basically I'm just saying I'm eating a little better. I'm eating a little less, and I'm maintaining my exercising. I'm still drinking a lot of water. Other thing I've done is I've completely cut out soft drinks. I don't drink diet drinks. I don't drink any kind of. Here in the South we call them all Cokes. I don't drink Cokes. I don't drink the diet Cokes or the regular Cokes. I know if you're not from the South in the U.S., you may call them soft drinks, but if you don't know this, it's mean down in the South, somebody will say, "Would you like a Coke?" And we say, "Sure," and they'll say, "What kind?" "Okay, I'll take a Dr. Pepper." That's how we work in the South. I don't drink any of those anymore. I can't remember the last time I had them. So I'll basically drink unsweet tea or water, that sort of thing. And again, I'm not that much of a health nut. If there's sweet tea available, that's it. Yeah, I'll probably drink it. And do I drink things other than that I maybe should or shouldn't? Yeah, but I just saying I cut out the soft drink. I know people who cut out soft drinks and they lost 10 pounds like that. It's just because there's so much sugar in it. So if I completely cut out sugar, absolutely not. Do I eat a ton less than I used to? Absolutely. Yeah. I used to could sit and watch a ball game and eat a whole package of Oreos. I could eat a whole box of Pop Tarts. Honestly, I could, and I did. And now I just don't do that anymore. Uh, so there's one thing. So that part of the health is the reason that people that gain weight. You don't feel like it. You don't feel like having sex because you're tired. I mean, you ate too much. Those sort of things. So eat a little better, eat a little less. Whatever exercise program you decide to do when you enjoy. Some people say, "Oh, you got to get on a bicycle. You got to do this. You got to. This is the best one ever. Got to get a rowing machine." I say do whatever it is you enjoy because you'll stick with it. So if get out and walk with your spouse. If you yesterday if you walked a half a mile, today walk a little further. Next next month, walk a little further. The 2 3 months from now, go a little further. If you like the elliptical, go a little further next time. Whatever it is that you enjoy, do it, and make sure that you're doing it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick with it. Let's move on from that health side of it. There's another health side of it that I see people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. When that is, their hormones are all screwed up. I've said this before, but I promise you, not everybody's seen my other videos, but get your hormones checked. If you go to a regular doctor and it's your regular insurance, now one of my favorite people on earth is a regular medical doctor, and I don't know how he handles it. And I know some other family physicians, super people. I don't know how they handle it. I'm just going to go with the MDs that I've experienced from my own personal health. They don't have time to check everything. And so I had to go to a different doctor. And the same test that I had with my regular medical doctor, he said, no, you're good, you're good, you're good. But I wasn't good. And so I went over to another doctor who specialized in hormones and all that sort of stuff. And I took my test that already, he said, oh, look, this is messed up. And he's showing me on the list, this is screwed up, this is screwed up, this is screwed up. And I don't think my regular physician doesn't care or anything like that. He just doesn't have time. He's not worried about, he doesn't specialize in those things. And that's why we need to be an advocate for our own health. And I say, go get your hormones checked. And because of gluten and processed foods and there's so cokes and sugar and all that stuff, it just messes up our hormones. Uh, you may find out that your thyroid stopped working years ago. You may find out that your testosterone's way off, or your estrogen, or whatever. And believe it or not, men have estrogen. Men, if you don't have estrogen, bad things are going to happen. You have too much, bad things are going to happen. You have too little, bad things happen. So if you don't, go get it checked. And I can't tell how many people who are in their 20s even, they go get it checked and they find out their testosterone's all messed up. And a lot of times, sometimes, it's because of processed food and bread, all the eating habits and sugar and all that, and exercise. And a lot of times they lose weight and everything starts working again. But either way, I can tell you so many people who went on testosterone therapy, and there's so many studies that say they lose a ton of weight. But I don't know. Most of them say, I don't know if you really lose a ton of weight. You just feel better and you more feel like exercising and eating right. And then when it spills over to your life of intimacy, I've seen it where they would say, hey, I feel like I'm going crazy. And even my wife, she felt like she was going crazy and got a hormones check. They were completely out of whack. And this was a long time ago, when really, really, really young, and got them fixed. And it's like a whole new women. We feel absolutely amazing. So I went and got mine checked, and I've had friend after friend after friend, and I can't tell how many times they're all messed up, and it's so fixable. You can fix it and then feel a million times better. If you have no desire for intimacy, that's not normal. I know if you want to have more intimacy, I get that. Go get these checked by someone who specializes in it. And I want them to specialize. For example, I went and had my testosterone checked, and they said, "Well, you're within the norm." And I go to the specialist, and he said a lot of times we go by symptoms. That little window there, yeah, yours was showing a little low, but by your symptoms, yours should be a lot higher. So he got a little higher. Changed my life. I mean, I feel a million times better on every level. So I promise you that works. Uh, so I have a couple more questions on intimacy here that I'd like to get to, and I hope this helps because I want you to have just an amazing life of intimacy. So what's okay and not okay in the bedroom, and whether you're thinking from a Christian perspective or just from a healthy marriage perspective or whatever the case may be. And most of the time they're saying, hey, can we do pretty much anything from toys to whatever? Well, in my opinion, and I don't think you're going to you may find some religious people who would say this isn't true, but you're not going to find this out of the Bible. You're not going to find healthy relationship people go against this. You're not going to find any of that. And that is, I feel like most things between a husband and wife are going to be okay if one, it's got to be consensual. So, for example, if one of you wants these toys and the other one doesn't, that means it's not consensual. If both of you are consensual to a toy or whatever it is, or different ways of having sex, whatever, then that. As long as it's consensual, I think is a big part. I also think it's got to be healthy. Not everything that you can do in a bedroom is healthy. I'm talking about physiological healthy. I mean, if it's going to create harm and you're going to end up in the ER, you're going to end up with have to go to the gastroenterologist or the ER or have surgery or do something crazy is going to happen. If it's not healthy, then you wouldn't do it. So it's got to be consensual. It's got to be healthy. It's got to be healthy, got to be consensual, but it also needs to be emotionally healthy too. So if it's degrading which would mean it probably wouldn't be consensual if that was the case as well. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, here's one more thing that I, I draw a line in the sand on, and not everybody's going to agree with this. I'm okay with that. And that is, no one else is invited to the bedroom. It's just the two of you, husband and wife. It's just not an option to have somebody else. Even digitally, we're not going to watch anything. We're not going to invite somebody else to join us. We're not going to do any of those things. We're not going to see any print. We're not going to do that. It's just the two of you. I think it's got to be healthy. It's got to be consensual, and no one else is invited. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close there because I just want to address some of these topics, and I hope this is helpful. There's a couple things that I want to end with, and that is, most species have sex because they're trying to reproduce, but not with us. It's more than just reproducing. It's a connection. It's a part of who we are as husband and wife. It's how we were made, and it should be there, and it should be happening. Now, I get it. You might be in a situation where you don't want it and you can't, or you don't have the health for it and all that, which I'd wonder why you're watching this anyway. But beyond that, I think it's a good thing. And how much? Don't compare yourself to the ones that it's happening 10, 12 times a week. Compare yourself to what you guys honestly want. Get rid of the barriers. Free up your schedules. Start on a health program right now. Get a little healthier tomorrow than you were today. Say no to, instead of 5 cookies, eat 1. Those sort of things. Just start making some changes, and over time, I think you'll see this get so much better. I'd love to hear from you. Keep sending those emails. Keep reaching out. Keep forwarding my videos to people, and we'll see you next time here in the 17 Law Studio.